Hello, my people. Welcome to Maintaining Velocity with Katie Shasky. This is my third podcast. My first podcast is Serum for the Soul. Second podcast, which is my favorite because I did a lot of research for some of those episodes and is really worth listening to from the depths of my soul. Spirituality with Muscle. So maintaining velocity is about just that. It's about momentum. It's about evolution of the soul, of the human body, the spirit, all these things combined, and also becoming more, pushing outwards, uh, creating new momentum, really. So let's begin this episode. We are talking essentially about time management, but I'm going to start with a story, really, from my childhood. So, going all the way back, I was homeschooled most of my life. I've had 4 years of formal education in elementary school. Other than that, about 8 years of that time, 8 years of the 12 that you normally get children's education, was done at home. So we were on a mountain, and our closest next door neighbors were my grandparents, and there was other domiciles on the property as well that we rented to, but those people would come and go, so they weren't really stable. They would change, and so I was isolated a lot, and there was not a lot of children around typically. So I was the type of kid that would generally go off by herself in nature and go be alone, or go hang out with my grandparents in general already anyway. So I was pretty much a loner from the beginning. So when I say that television was my main connection to the outside world for a very long time, believe me, it was. Besides church, that was it. Like, I didn't get off of the mountain. It was very, very rural at the time. Still different now, but back then it was very rural, and I was desperate for any outside contact with the world. Eventually, when I was closer to 15 years old, we got a computer, so I had access to the internet, which created less pressure in this area of life of television and entertainment. My mother was one of those Art Bell listening conspiracy theorists from way back. She's an Aquarius, and a lot of people do this on a regular basis now. I've heard every single conspiracy theory that's ever been born. She used to listen to Art Bell in the 90s, and if you remember Art Bell in the 90s, you damn well know that it was pretty bonkers. Like, it covered literally everything from time travel with a B. Oh my God. Time travel, any other kind of conspiracy theory you can imagine. Dimensions, so many different things. So that's besides the point. She was always, always, always on about making sure that the government was watching. So on top of the fact that she took this control for one reason or another, she was also very aware about programming, like entertainment programming. And as an adult, I've really realized how vital it is to kind of actually pay attention to what's going on. She's not wrong on this aspect, that she wasn't always wrong. It's just when she was wrong, she was terribly wrong. So back to television. She had this thing where she didn't want us being programmed to be a specific type of people or to think certain ways. She was very, that's why we were homeschooled for most of our lives, is she wanted us to think for ourselves, not be part of the machine. I wasn't baptized into the family religion until I was 14, but I was done outside of the church. Like, she wanted everything to be done very much rebellious style, very Aquarian, very, very hippy dippy. She wonders why it turned out this way. But anyway. So what she did was she took away the plug to the television. The whole, it was the old 1994 tube television set. And those fuckers were heavy as hell. You could not carry one of those by yourself unless you lifted really. And so what she did was she took wire clippers and clipped off the electric plug itself and would put on and take off replacement plugs when she felt like it. So the control of the television became a hot commodity. And she would give my sister, because she was older, special privileges with the television. But I would always be the last on the totem pole when it comes to TV. So I would be the scrappiest about it. I would be most hell bent on getting to watch certain shows because, I was either wanting to learn something or relax. And so I don't know. It became a real big spot of contention for my family at large. It was just the three of us. My dad had been long gone by then. So I was either outside of the house or with my grandparents for particular reasons, on top of the fact that, they didn't take their television cord plug and I could, get a little taste of the real world that way. But there was many days where I just disassociated and did not care about what was going on with the greater world. And I'm kind of glad that I developed the skills that I did during that time, because it has come in handy quite a bit. So moving forward, we talk about this programming thing. I will say this. It did get so bad about the television plug situation that one time I broke a plastic hanger on my sister's thigh because she changed the channel. It was like jail. I was really upset. I don't even remember what I was trying to watch, but she wanted to watch something else that I didn't like, and she had seniority. So even at one point, I forgot about this. My sister and I, we would do the grocery shopping, and between her and I, we snuck and bought another replacement cord so that we could have more control. But I was only allowed to deal with that. The permission I got, my sister would give me permission to be able to use the television then with that second plug. But it would still be like a big no if we got caught with it, because then she would know. So there would always be like this big terror if I heard the car or heard my mom wake up, like, hurry up and take the plug off. So there was always this like anxiety ridden feeling when I'm watching TV instilled in that now. So I don't barely sit still and watch TV anymore at all, even now as an adult. There's times when I'll watch like 45 minutes to a half hour of something right before I go to bed at night. But usually it's a documentary, something, studious and smart and responsible. It's not something that's going to be as long as a movie generally. So it's just, I have an interesting relationship with media now. And it's due in part to my developed awareness of art. And this is one of the points I wanted to make, is I have this thing about Disney Corporation, and Walt Disney. The whole premise of Walt Disney's parks and entertainment is about forced perspective. Like, we have this imagination that we all partake in, these social constructs that we partake in. I'm going to sip some hot tea because we saw them on TV, right? So there's a great deal of people having trouble with dating, for example, because we all have this idealized version of the Disney romance in our minds, and how things don't ever work out like they do on TV or whatever. That's a really great example of programming that's stressed out society for what, So we have to be really careful how long we spend in entertainment in general. So that being said, when it comes to time management, this was a what would Katie do ask. It was a question I got asked last night. So I'm doing Q&A. If anybody wants to participate, you can send me a private message or you can comment under my photo. I have some pinned photos on my socials. If you want to ask me a question, I will cover it on my podcast. So last night I was asked about time management. I have a few jobs on top of spiritual work and content creation and making a podcast. I do a lot of things, right? So it was a really good question. I clean church and a house, and I take on other odd jobs as they come for sure. And then I do spray tanning, and then I do readings. Everything's on a very tight schedule. Everything's very much appointment based. So I have to do a lot of, I would say, finessing with my time, on top of making sure I get as much sleep as I possibly can, usually between 6 and 7.5 hours of sleep. I don't get 8. My body just doesn't rest that long. I don't know. I wish I could get steady 8 hours every night, but it doesn't always play out that way. So when it comes to time management, some of the ways that I handle that is making sure that I'm not spending time in somebody else's daydream. So entertainment, doom scrolling, chasing dopamine, watching stuff, binge watching, all these things are on my number one things to cut list when it comes to making sure that I'm working on not only my goals, but making sure that I'm showing up with my commitments that I've made for work, or showing up in my friends' lives, or whatever, shuffling around what I have to do to make sure that my life is well-rounded and healthy, and staying on a maintaining velocity idea where I am not just maintaining momentum, but growing momentum as well, and staying in a forward growth momentum instead of stagnating, right? So everything has to be juggled. So besides entertainment, the first thing I do is make sure I have a very annoying app on my phone, one way or another, that will make a sound, shake my phone, and disable it if I have a task that needs to get done. And I set a notification. I want it to disturb me. I want it to annoy the shit out of me until I do it, because if it makes it to my app, then it's a priority. So I will set notifications on a reminder app for literally anything. We have smartphones for this reason. Okay? If you find yourself being ADHD like me, or autistic, and having your priorities either fluctuate to where you get confused or you forget easily, all right, so this is going to be your ace in your pocket, quite literally, is a reminder on your phone. So absolutely do that. So let's do the checklist rundown already. We have these 2 things: get disciplined about entertainment, doom scrolling, dopamining, spending time in somebody else's daydream. Okay. So forced perspective is something you have to really be paying attention to, not just because it's an art concept, but because it is a very real way for people or entities to steal your time, energy, and value. Because what is your value? It is your attention. So what are you spending your attention on? If you're finding yourself pushing your goals aside and procrastinating, that's something else to pay attention to, because you will be more anxious the more your to-do list becomes long. If your to-do list continues to grow, you will continue to have anxiety and more likely continue to prolong your procrastination and wind up in some sort of weird stasis, but at the same time in entropy. You're rotting basically in one spot. Be careful with that. All right. So lastly and finally, my point that I want to make for time management, this is crucial, and it's probably the most rigorous of all disciplines, is to create radical presence to where you are here in the very moment, at each and every moment. You're not living too far in the past. You're not living too far in the future. You're really here right now, paying attention to what it is you're doing. That takes the most discipline out of literally anything that you're handling, because you want to multitask, right? Generally. But if you multitask mentally and you're not focusing on the task at hand, you're likely to make mistakes and your quality of work will drop. People won't respect you if you're doing too much and your quality is low. It turns you into somebody with bad boundaries. So you have to make sure that you have good boundaries. That's important too. But you will cultivate good boundaries when you are cultivating presence and building that up as a muscle. Presence is extremely disciplined. It's making sure that you know who you are in time and space at any given time, no matter what you're doing and what building you're in, what actions you're taking, who you're around. So all these things play into each other. And I always think about time management in relation to entertainment first and foremost, along with presence. Okay. And making sure that your imagination is being used by you and not basically being borrowed or removed from you in some type of way and wasting your time, spending time in somebody else's imagination. You are a force of creation. Everybody nowadays with a social media profile is a creator now. We have to take this seriously. We can't be spending time being entertained anymore. We have to be creators. So own that role. And so I covered some pretty good steps on how to own that role. Presence is a big one. If you'd like me to cover more about this subject, let me know. If you hear this and you want to leave a comment for me, that would be great. I would love a flower emoji. That would be so super dope. Let me know that you got all the way through. Please subscribe, interact with me. I have a Substack now. A lot of my content on there is free right now. There will be some uncensored content. My Substack is my main, I would say, my main platform for my podcasts. Spotify is secondary, but Substack is my primary for my podcast because I am able to put things behind a paywall and be uncensored. There are stories that I've never been able to tell that I desperately want to tell and not be censored to do so. It would take away the realness and the vulnerability and the rawness of how life really can be sometimes. So if you want, I have my subscription set at $5 a month right now. I will be creating uncensored episodes, but right now everything is free. If you at least subscribe for free on the podcast, you'll be able to follow along a lot better with the notifications and stay up to date with my shenanigans. Instagram is becoming my secondary way of communicating with the world, but I'm still there at Sui Generous Regenerate. Everywhere you look on any social, Substack, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, you can find me at Sui Generous Regenerate. So this is my mission in life. This is my main deal. I love talking. I am a Gemini moon conjunct Chiron. This is how I help people. This is part of my destiny. So if I am able to answer any of your questions, please hit me up on any of my socials and shoot me a message or a comment and ask me for any of your questions. I'll do my best to answer you here. I love you all very much. You are my people. Thank you. Without you, I would be nothing. So thank you for your time, energy, and attention. And I'm working on building a community that's going to be such an honor to be able to spend more time with you guys and do so in a more meaningful way. So that's my goal. But this is my answer on time management. It is very, very tough subject, really. And I also want to add, you want to really be looking at where your Capricorn house is. Not just your house, not your 10th house, but where is your Capricorn? What house is it in? Because Saturn rules time, okay? You're going to learn a lot about how you should be using your time by how your Saturn is, by how your 8th house is, by where your Capricorn is. Do the math on all of these things and see where you can not only build upon things over time, but also expand and contract time at will. So don't forget, Saturn's literally the Time Lord, and I'm not talking about Hellenistic astrology for that. I'm talking about like Doctor Who Time Lord. You know what I'm saying? Like 2 hearts in the chest. That's Saturn. Okay, I am done. This is a 20-minute episode on time management. Believe it or not, I'm recording this right before bed. So I wanted to make sure to get it in. You know how it is. Like, if you can find any pocket of time to be a creator instead of an entertainee, that is what you do. So I'm a living example of this. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. I'm out.